In the 5th year of my marriage to Qin Ge, he got into a car accident and completely forgot about our marriage. I lazily asked him, "So are you going to divorce me now?" "No." Qin Ge shook his head, his tone firm. His eyes were slightly red. "I can be his substitute." "Me?" My arranged marriage partner of 5 years was in a car accident, and I rushed to the hospital without delay. Before I could enter the room, my sister-in-law Qin Miao stopped me and stammered, "Sister-in-law, you might need to brace yourself a little." My heart tightened. Was it that serious? Did he become a vegetable? Seeing my grave expression, Qin Miao hurriedly waved her hands and added, "Physically, there's no issue. It's just..." Noticing her hesitation, I grew even more puzzled. Surely he didn't turn into an idiot. I won't say more. Sister-in-law, you should just go in and see for yourself. I hurriedly entered the hospital room, where a large group of people surrounded Qin Ge, whose head was wrapped in bandages. At the sight, my heart sank. So he really did injure his brain. When my father-in-law and mother-in-law saw me arrive, they made their way, clearing a spot for me to approach. Just as I was about to ask about Qin Ge's condition, the handsome man on the hospital bed spoke with distant confusion. "Miss Song?" I froze instantly. Where was the clingy, affectionate husband who usually called me wife? My mother-in-law walked over with an awkward expression and whispered, "Yanshu, Xiaoge hit his head and seems to have forgotten everything about your marriage these past few years." I was momentarily stunned. No wonder Qin Miao had told me to brace myself. Qin Ge and I had a business marriage with no emotional foundation beforehand. Our feelings grew over time after we got married. Looking at Qinji's lost and unfamiliar gaze, I sighed inwardly. Well, this was just great, back to square one. At this moment, Qin Ge hesitantly spoke up. "Mom, are you saying Miss Song and I are married?" Judging by his tone, it seems he really has forgotten. He remembers everyone, yet only forgot me. My chest felt a bit tight. A husband married for years remembers everyone, yet only forgets his own wife. My mother-in-law shot Qin Ge a glare, somewhat annoyed. "Why call her Miss Song? This is your wife." She then took my hand and spoke earnestly. "Yanshu, don't take it to heart. Xiaoge hits his head and isn't thinking straight. Don't dwell on what he says." I smiled faintly. No matter what, my parents-in-law have been very good to me these past years of marriage. There wasn't much affection between Qin Ge and me initially, but we grew close later. Now the worst-case scenario is just starting over again. "It's fine, Mom. You all must be tired. I'll stay here and take care of him." After seeing off the crowd of relatives, I picked up the kanji nearby and fed it to Qin Ge. Qin Ge flinched back slightly, his eyes flickering uncertainly as he asked timidly, "We really got married?" I placed the kanji on the table, my tone indifferent, "Yes." Qin Ge fell silent for a long while, as if only then accepting this fact. Originally, I privately believed neither of us truly consented to this marriage. I'd long heard Qin Ge had someone he loved, pining for years without success. I thought we'd each go our own ways after marriage, but he truly was a good man, doting on me in every way. Over time, I grew fond of him too. But now, with Qin Ge's memories gone, I wasn't sure if he still had feelings for me. Anxious inside, I pursed my lips and finally spoke. "I know this might be hard for you to accept right now, but we really are married. We can try getting along first. If you truly don't like me, we can get a divorce." The word divorce left a bitter ache in my chest. Hearing the term, Qin Ge snapped back to his senses. He stammered, "No, we can't divorce. Not divorcing would be best. At least for now, I have no thoughts of divorce." The air fell silent for a moment. Qinji cautiously pointed at the bowl of congee beside him. Wife? Aren't you going to feed me anymore?" "Me?" I felt like the amnesiac Qinji's thought process was a bit strange, but I still dutifully picked up the congee and fed him bite by bite. Qin was a corporate CEO, usually extremely busy with work. Once all his physical indicators returned to normal, we completed the discharge procedures. At the time of discharge, I asked the attending physician about Qin Ge's chances of recovery. The doctor said memory loss caused by brain damage was an unstable factor. It depended on physical recovery and the adaptation process. Some people might remember quickly, while others might never regain their memories in their lifetime. I let out a long sigh. It would be best if he recovered, but if not, it wasn't a big deal either. Life would just go on as usual. The only change was that Qin Ge started coming home more and more frequently. He was usually busy, only coming home 2 or 3 times a week, staying for a brief moment before leaving for work again. Lately, however, he had been coming home every day, almost reminiscent of the early days of our marriage. That day, I was blow-drying my hair. Qin Ge had already finished showering and was half lying on the bed. Ding! My phone, placed on the bedside table, chimed. After drying my hair, I climbed onto the bed. The phone was still on the bedside table, and Qin Ge was organizing documents on his laptop. He usually didn't check my phone, so today I naturally assumed he hadn't looked at it. I unlocked my phone. A glaring message popped up. Siyang, I heard Qin Ge lost his memory in a car accident. How's your relationship holding up? I raised an eyebrow, a flicker of disgust flashing through my heart. Siyang, my ex-boyfriend. 5 years ago, after I broke up with him, he went abroad. Since our families still had business collaborations, we hadn't deleted each other's contact info. I leisurely typed out a reply to him. Yanshu, don't send messages unrelated to work. My personal matters are none of President Xi's concern. Without waiting to see his reply, I simply turned off my phone screen and tossed it aside. Qin Ge, who was beside me, suddenly spoke up. Who were you chatting with? Qin Ge had lost his memory. If I directly mentioned it was my ex-boyfriend, it might affect our relationship. To avoid unnecessary trouble, I thought for a moment and casually said, a business partner I've been dealing with lately. It wasn't entirely a lie. Siyang was indeed my family's business partner. Qin Ge stared at me, his gaze dark and inscrutable, as if trying to see right through me. A little guilty, I unconsciously rubbed my nose. Oh! He turned back to his work. I was momentarily stunned. I thought he'd press further, but all I got was an, oh? Suddenly, I felt inexplicably irritated. With an indifferent expression, I snatched his laptop and placed it on the table. Qin Ge was caught off guard by my abrupt action. Frowning, he asked, "What's wrong?" I curled my lips, straddled his lap, and provocatively lifted his chin with my fingers before planting a kiss on his cheek. Blinking coyly, I asked, "Tonight? Want to do it?" Qin Ge's breath hitched. In the past, he would have already pinned me beneath him and started peeling off my clothes. But the amnesiac Qin Ge had become unexpectedly chaste. I saw the tips of his ears turn red, his throat bobbing, a flicker of desire darkening his eyes. Are you sure? Qin Ge's voice was low, slightly hoarse. Faintly, I remembered our first night had been like this too. His gaze was profound as he enunciated each word. Yanshu, are you sure? I kissed his thin lips, using action as my answer. Reality proved that one really shouldn't be too reckless. Waking up the next morning, my expression was grim, my head throbbing slightly. Qin Ge sat beside me, fidgeting with his fingers, occasionally stealing furtive glances my way. I couldn't help sighing. How come even his skills got worse after losing his memory? Noticing my sour expression, Qin Ge hesitated before tugging at my pajama sleeve. Wife? Do you dislike me now? His eyes looked somewhat pitiful. I rubbed his head like a dog's and comforted him. Not at all. Qin Ge's eyes suddenly brightened. He poked his fingers together, raised his gaze excitedly, and asked, "Then can we do it again tonight? I'll definitely practice more." Me, you'd better go to sleep. Dreams have everything you want. In the end, I chased him off to work. He kept looking back at me every few steps, reluctant to leave. At noon, Qin Miao and I found a restaurant to eat at together. Qin Miao and I had been good friends even before marriage. After marriage, whenever Qin Ge was at work, we would still meet up occasionally. While eating, she excitedly pulled me over to look at her phone. Siyang is coming back to the country soon. Sister-in-law, look at his friend circle. Qin Miao scrolled through the phone screen. Siyang, coming back soon. Want to see the person I miss one more time. The attached image was an exquisitely hand-woven red rose. It was something I had personally woven for him back when we were dating. Qin Miao looked at me with a gossipy expression, blinking her eyes. She teased me. Sister-in-law, Siyang still has deep feelings for you. I leisurely cut my steak and took a small bite. It's just self-indulgence. Siyang and I did have a sweet period once, but because I refused to sleep together with him before marriage, he found another woman, justifying it as relieving desires. He even said everyone in their circle did the same and told me not to make a fuss. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Did he think everyone was as rotten as him? Qin Ge wouldn't do such things. He was clean during the premarital checkup. Though he was indeed quite unskilled in bed, I silently thought to myself, in that aspect, it took us quite a while to adjust to each other. Over on Qin Miao's side, her phone chimed again. She excitedly patted my shoulder. Sister-in-law, sister-in-law, check your friend's circle quickly. I opened my phone and refreshed it. The newest post, the air is so nice today. The accompanying photo shows an office setting with a large bouquet of handcrafted flowers, daisies, tulips, and baby's breath, tied with a beautiful ribbon gleaming under the sunlight. This was the idea I came up with during my senior year when Qin Miao wanted to give Qin Ge a birthday gift, to make a handcrafted flower bouquet. However, due to Qin Miao's lack of manual dexterity, most of it was completed by me instead. After receiving the bouquet, Qin Ge had always kept it in his office drawer, but I was a little surprised. This post on his friend circle, whether overtly or subtly, was a counterattack against Si Yang. Since we are from the same social circle, everyone was familiar with each other. But I remember when I was dating Si Yang during university, Qin Ge didn't seem to know about it. Did he? In the past, I had mentioned to him that I had an ex-boyfriend, but Qin Ge didn't care and never bothered to ask for his name. Over time, I gradually forgot about Si Yang altogether. Meow Meow, did you tell your older brother about my past with Si Yang? Qin Miao buried her head in her steak, cheeks puffed up like a squirrel. No, Si Yang, that scumbag kept the relationship under wraps. How could I possibly betray you by revealing your info? A decent ex should be as good as dead. Don't worry, sister-in-law, I'd never tell my brother. I lowered my head and thought, if Qin Miao didn't say anything, how did Qin Ge know? Could it be that Si Yang contacted him? After finishing a day's work, I went home, took a shower, and waited for Qin Ge. He didn't return until almost 11 p.m., by which time my eyelids were too heavy to keep open. Once Qin Ge finished showering, I yawned and curled up in his arms. I had assumed that without his memories, our interactions would feel strained, but he adapted surprisingly well. So well, in fact, that we became even closer than before. As Qin Ge massaged my temples, I kept my eyes closed and lazily asked him, "You know Si Yang is my ex-boyfriend?" Qin Ge's movements suddenly paused. He gave a quiet, I shifted into a more comfortable position, nestling fully against him. Remembering his daytime friend circle post, I couldn't help but let out a muffled laugh. How old are you to still act so childish? Why are you competing with him? Qin Ge held me in his arms and muttered in a low voice, "I won't do it again next time." His voice sounded muffled, seeming extremely dejected. I gave him a puzzled glance. Since when did Qin Ge become so obedient? Could he have misunderstood that I still had lingering feelings for Si Yang? That wouldn't do. I quickly added, "Si Yang is already in my past. You're my husband now. He's returning to the country in a few days. If things get too tense between you two, it won't look good for either family." Qin Ge suddenly lifted his head. Somehow, his eyes seemed slightly red, his throat moved, and his deep, magnetic voice rang out. "Fine." But I couldn't shake the feeling that this fine carried a hint of gritted teeth. It must be my imagination. Qin Ge lowered his head and kissed my lips. The sweet, slick sensation twined in our mouths as our breaths mingled, tongues entwined. It was a long while before we parted. Qin Ge untied the belt of his robe, his eyes dark with unconcealed desire. "Wife, I wasn't prepared enough last night. Today, I've learned a lot. Trust me." His tone was resolute, brimming with confidence. In the end, my white lace nightgown was torn apart with a rip, and I drowned with him in the waves of passion. I shouldn't have believed him. As it turned out, he might truly lack talent, or perhaps it was because he'd only ever practiced with me, leaving him inexperienced. Looking at Qin Ge, who was now hanging his head pitifully beside me, I couldn't resist ruffling his hair again. After a long pause, I hesitantly said, "You've improved, really." Qin Ge buried his head even lower. I had thought that even if Si Yang returned to the country, our paths wouldn't cross, but he sought me out himself. That morning, Si Yang sent me a message. "Si Yang, Yanshu, let's meet." "Yanshu, Qin Ge doesn't truly love you. He secretly admired another girl all through university. Let's meet and I'll show you proof." Naturally, I didn't want to meet Si Yang. He had no credibility to me, but he mentioned Qin Ge. I once believed that everyone has their own past, and there's no need to dwell on it too much. But thinking back to the rumors before our marriage, how Qin Ge had remained chaste for years over a girl, pining hopelessly even after she married someone else. I had asked him once who that girl was. Qin Ge said, "You'll find out someday." After that, the topic was never brought up again. I bit my lip, my heart in turmoil. After some hesitation, I finally agreed to Xiyang's invitation. Before leaving, I sent Qin Ge a message. "Yancha Xiyang asked to meet me. Come pick me up at Wangjiang Pavilion." I arrived at the restaurant. I tossed my bag onto the seat and sat down coldly. Xiyang, dressed in a sleek black tailored suit, flashed a smile. "Yanshu, you still have feelings for me deep down, don't you?" I looked directly at him, my tone calm. "You know, I came to see you not to hear these things." Xiyang's smile stiffened, his voice tinged with dejection. "You still blame me." I found him quite amusing. He was the one who cheated first. Shouldn't I blame him? Impatiently, I rubbed my temples and poured myself a glass of water. "If you have something to say it quickly. I'm in a hurry." Xiyang sighed and spoke slowly. "Do you remember? Back in university, there was a time when the school suddenly planted a large patch of tulips below the girls' dormitory." He seemed delighted, unable to suppress the curl of his lips. Because the girl Qin Ge loved tulips, so he specially imported a batch of high-quality tulip seeds from abroad. My hand holding the water glass paused. Then I heard Xiyang continue. "Qin Ge bought the naming rights for a planet on a foreign website, naming it Yang Yang, that girl's nickname. I have his purchase records here. Also, that girl loved sweet and sour fish just like you. After the cafeteria took it off the menu, Qin Ge donated a teaching building to the school, and sweet and sour fish was reinstated." No wonder. I had just complained about sweet and sour fish being removed on the confession wall, and it was back on the menu within days. Turns out that was also Qin Ge's doing. That girl took a liking to a limited edition collaborative camera, so Qin spent nearly $1 million to buy it back and secretly gifted it to her under the guise of a raffle. Tulips, Yang Yang, sweet and sour fish, the camera. My thoughts froze in an instant. There's no such thing as coincidence in this world. Watching Xiyang chatter incessantly with such confidence, I suddenly laughed. Xiyang asked in confusion, "Aren't you jealous?" I stood up coldly, looking down at him, unable to hold back my sarcasm. "Xiyang, dating you was the worst decision I ever made. Have you ever considered that the one who loves tulips, eats sweet and sour fish, and goes by the nickname Yang Yang is me? How utterly ridiculous. I dated him for a year, and he didn't even know my nickname. It made sense. He never took the initiative to ask about me. If he had truly cared for me, how could he have succumbed to loneliness and cheated?" Xiyang froze for a second. Then he stood up and retorted, "That's impossible. You obviously like red roses." I let out a cold laugh and fired back. "It's because you only ever gave me red roses that you assumed I liked them. Xiyang, you don't love me. The only person you love is yourself. You're clinging to me now, not because you think you were wrong, but because you're unwilling to let go. I've already moved on with my life, and I hope you won't bother me again. If you keep harassing me, then I think the collaboration between the Song family and the Sai family can come to an end." I picked up my bag to leave, but Xiyang chased after me and grabbed my arm. He shouted, nearly losing control. "Yanshu, I know you're only with Qin Ge to make me angry. I've already changed. Can we start over?" I was just about to slap him when someone from behind suddenly pushed him away and pulled me into their arms. A pair of rough, large hands pressed me against his firm, scorching chest. Qin Ge's eyes gleamed coldly. "Mr. C, is this how you harass a married woman in public?" He spoke lazily, his tone laced with undisguised threat. "If you keep bothering my wife like this, I won't mind adding another Sai family scandal to tomorrow's trending headlines. So domineering, CEO-like, so handsome." My inner self let out a fangirl scream. On the way back, I stared at his flawless profile, my eyes sparkling. Once we returned to the villa, Qin Ge swept me up by the waist and tossed me onto the bed. He yanked his tie loose with force. While I was still stunned, Qin Ge's eyes reddened slightly, his voice choked with emotion. "Wife, I can be a substitute. Just don't go back to him." "Me? What kind of new roleplay is this?" Seeing that I wasn't speaking, Qin Ge's eyes darkened. He lowered his head and let out a self-mocking laugh. Sorry, I overstepped. He turned to leave, looking dejected. I immediately grabbed him. My intuition told me Qin Ge must have misunderstood something. I hesitated slightly before asking, You are a substitute? Qin Ge's eyes reddened even more. His voice choked as if he'd suffered some immense grievance. You clearly know, yet you still humiliate me like this. Am I just a plaything in your heart? I looked at his face, then thought of Si Yang's face. There wasn't the slightest resemblance. After some thought, I figured it might be a side effect of his amnesia from the car accident. Feeling playful, I suppressed a laugh and asked, You just are a substitute. What? Are you going to leave? Qin Ge's demeanor softened. He slumped over my lap pitifully. I won't leave. Don't abandon me. His eyes were red at the corners, still glistening with tears. He probably didn't realize how much I adored him like this. Truly, tears are a man's best dowry. I put on a stern face and said, Then confess honestly about the tulips from university, the sweet and sour fish, and that limited edition collaborative camera I won in a raffle. Qin Ge's body stiffened. He cautiously raised his head to look at me, his tone uneasy. Wife, you knew all along? Qin Ge had hidden it so well. If not for Si Yang, I'd still be in the dark, never knowing he had a crush on me back in university. This fool, if not for Si Yang's meddling, he probably planned to keep it from me for a lifetime. My expression remained stern. Why didn't you tell me? Qin Ge lowered his head, biting his lower lip in grievance. I was afraid you'd think less of me if you knew I liked you. Books all say people don't cherish things they obtain too easily. I keenly sensed something off. What kind of books would say such things? I calmly asked, What kind of books do you usually read? Qin Ge's expression visibly panicked. He got up from me, threw on his coat, flustered, his tone stumbling. I just remembered the company. There are documents at the company I haven't signed yet. I'll head back first. Then Qin Ge immediately bolted. Naturally, I wouldn't let him escape so easily. Qin Ge ran ahead, and I chased after him. As it turned out, playing no escape at home wasn't a good idea. With a loud thud, Qin Ge crashed into the door, causing a vase placed high up to tumble down and land right on his head. Qin Ge woke up in the hospital again, his head wrapped in bandages. Worried, I asked the doctor. He just hurt his brain not long ago, and now his head's injured again. Will there be any problems? The doctor flipped through the medical records and admonished gravely. Such a short time apart, and his head's hit again? Family members should also pay more attention. I quickly nodded, accepting the criticism. After the doctor left, I came to the hospital bed. Qin Ge lowered his head, seemingly lost in thought. I said to him with heartache, Why don't you be more careful? You got hurt again. To my surprise, Qin Ge raised his eyes with a look of disdain. You're just a canary I keep outside. How dare you interfere with my decisions? Me? What kind of new plot was this? Seeing my silence, Qin Ge grew even more unrestrained. Fine, I'll spend the evening with you. Now I'm off to accompany another lover. My expression darkened instantly. Another lover? He's even keeping a mistress? Good, very good. Then Qin Ge continued coldly. The camera Yang Yang wanted, I've already bought it. I know you're jealous, but you should know your place. Don't covet what doesn't belong to you. Utterly heartless, like a scumbag who abandons people after having sex. I was so angry I almost laughed. I grabbed his phone from his bedside and among the many apps found one with a tomato icon. Qin Ge's pupils shrank, and he instinctively tried to snatch the phone back. But he was lying on a hospital bed. How could he possibly snatch it back from me? With lightning speed, I opened the bookshelf in the app, and the titles that greeted me left me utterly stunned. 99 Times of Forced Love, Where Can the Substitute Wife Escape? The Tycoon's Priceless Darling Wife. Real and Fake Heiresses. The fiancé is obsessed with spoiling his wife. The Tycoon's canary has flown away again. And so on. Too many to count. I turned away silently, and the air fell into momentary stillness. Back in university, I used to adore these domineering CEO novels, but now, seeing these titles again, an overwhelming sense of absurdity and helplessness surged in my heart. Qin Ge had already seized the opportunity to snatch back his phone and glared at me fiercely. These are all books Yang Yang likes. Why are you snooping around? What, are you trying to learn Yang Yang's wisdom to catch my attention? Stop dreaming. I was speechless, my disbelief beyond words. What kind of wisdom could possibly be in these novels? Qin Ge let out a cold laugh, looking at me with undisguised contempt. How could a shallow woman like you understand? Yang Yang must have her reasons for reading these books. At times, I really wanted to give him a knock on the head. Considering his current mental state isn't great, I held back and played along with his ridiculously dumb canary plot. During his time in the hospital, I personally cooked chicken soup for him. Qin Ge took a sip and sneered disdainfully. Disgusting. Not as good as Yang Yang's fried rice. I fell silent. Does he actually enjoy eating something charred black beyond recognition? When I massaged him, he closed his eyes, and his 37-degree mouth uttered icy words. Not bad. I'll give you a raise. I clenched my fists, restraining the urge to punch him. Finally, the day of discharge arrived. Due to signing a contract with a business partner, Qin Ge handled the discharge procedures himself. That night, I returned home utterly exhausted. After showering, all I wanted was to collapse onto the bed, but Qin Ge yanked me up again, his face cold and merciless. As my canary, you should now do what you're supposed to do. I slapped his paw away lazily and said, What thing? Qin Ge straightened up with a serious face, stiffening his neck as he declared, Servicing your financial backer. The corner of my mouth twitched. I had just signed a $5 million deal today. The audacity of him to call himself my financial backer? I shot him a glance. Isn't Yang Yang your favorite? Yet you're still sleeping with me? Don't you feel ashamed? Qin Ge flushed from his face down to his neck at my blunt words. Planting his hands on his hips, he said righteously, What I'm doing with you isn't love, it's hate. I really wanted to punch him. In the end, Qin Ge did indeed pin me beneath him and hate me. That night, I felt like a fish being fried, flipped back and forth until both sides were golden brown. Qin Ge moved while caressing my face, his tone deep. You and Yang Yang really aren't alike at all. I rolled my eyes, nearly losing my composure. At the most critical moment, why ruin the mood? Everything finally came to an end, and I fell into a deep sleep. Qin Ge, thoroughly satisfied, pulled me into his embrace. The next day, I woke up groggily. Qin Ge was already up, dressed in an elegant white shirt, buttoning it up. With a grand wave of his hand, he tossed a black card onto my bedside. Last night was excellent. This is your reward. A vein throbbed on my forehead. Once he regained his memory, I'd make sure to settle this score with him properly. Fortunately, that opportunity didn't take too long to arrive. As Qin Ge stepped out the door, he stepped first with his left foot, missed his footing entirely, and took a tumble. Thus, the man who had just been discharged from the hospital found himself back in it, yet again. The attending physician gave us a frosty look. If you don't want to live, there are other methods to try. Intentionally hitting your head has a fairly low chance of success in killing you. Embarrassed, I hastily promised it wouldn't happen again. Watching Qin Ge sitting on the hospital bed once more, I rubbed my temples with a bitter smile. This time, I was genuinely afraid he'd say something like, Woman, you're playing with fire. Luckily, Qin Ge behaved much more meekly this time. I couldn't help but chuckle lightly. Giving me a reward? Serves you right now, doesn't it? Qin Ge nodded woodenly in agreement. I narrowed my eyes slightly. What, got your memory back? Qin Ge's gaze wavered as he fidgeted with his fingers, his tone soft and pleading. Wife, my brain was messed up from the fall before. Don't hold it against me, okay? Amused, I stared at him, took a step forward, and lifted his chin with my fingers, saying faintly, Then let's settle the score first. What was I? A canary? I was supposed to serve my financial backer and do hate with you? You even wanted to give me a reward? With every sentence I uttered, Qin Ge's face grew paler. Clutching the bedsheet, his voice feeble, he asked, Can I still pretend to lose my memory? I let out a cold laugh. What do you think? In the end, I didn't let Qin Ge into my bed for a full 7 days. He bought me countless luxury items, lugging them in big and small bags, and even got me a brand new camera. I hugged the camera, utterly delighted. Qin Ge wrapped his arms around me and planted a kiss on my cheek. Wife, you should have cooled off by now, right? I said with a grin. Consider yourself lucky. Truthfully, his memory loss wasn't entirely a bad thing. The seed of a secret crush planted in youth sprouted in the 5th year of our marriage. Without this incident, Qin Ge's mouth would have been tougher than a duck's, and he might not have confessed until his 40s or 50s. Si Yang later sought me out a few more times, and his harassment became unbearable. During his last phone call, I was busy arranging flowers. His tone was heavy. "Yanshu, if I hadn't cheated back then, would we still be together now?" Calmly placing a tulip into the vase, I asked slowly, "Si Yang, do you still remember what you were doing on the first birthday we spent together?" Silence filled the other end of the line. "I remember. You told me you were in the dorm. I bought a big cake and went to your dorm building, even setting up a circle of heart-shaped candles to celebrate your birthday. The entire boys' dorm was watching as I sang you the birthday song. And what happened? You went to a nightclub that evening. Your roommates all explained to me that you didn't touch those women. But the issue isn't whether you touched them or not. It's that you simply didn't care about someone's genuine feelings. Si Yang, I'm a person with principles. Your later infidelity didn't surprise me." While trimming the flower stems, I continued, "How dare someone who betrays another's sincerity ask about what if? The collaboration between the Si family and Song Corporation will be terminated. From now on, we don't need to stay in touch." Si Yang hung up the phone. Qin Ge hugged me from behind, burying his face in the crook of my neck. I stroked his cheek and asked with a smile, "You already liked me back when I celebrated Si Yang's birthday, didn't you?" "What, were you jealous?" Qin Ge kissed my neck and grumbled sourly. "Of course I was jealous." Then his tone shifted, and he chuckled slyly. "Though those photos of him at the nightclub back then, I was the one who had them taken and secretly sent them to you using someone else's email." I let out a muffled laugh and flicked his forehead. "Naughty. Perhaps we will meet the wrong person at the right time, but we still have the right to pursue happiness." Tomorrow is another new day. This is the end of the main story. Next is Qinji's side story. Back in university, I fell for a girl. The first time I saw her was by the school pond, where she was holding a camera, taking photos of her classmates. Standing in the sunlight, her smile was radiant. Later, I happened to learn that she was the eldest daughter of the Song family, Song Yanshu. From her roommates, I heard she liked tulips. So I specially imported a batch of high-quality tulip seeds from abroad. On the days the flowers bloomed, I pretended to pass by the girls' dormitory casually and saw her gazing at the flower bed below, her eyes curved in delight. The corners of my lips curved too. If she was happy, I was happy too. When I saw her complaining on the school's confession wall about the sweet and sour fish being taken off the menu, I immediately asked my dad to invest in the school and had the dish reinstated overnight. From my dad's conversation with Uncle Song, I learned that Song Yanshu's childhood nickname was Yang Yang. Yang Yang. What a lovely name. Later, she started dating Si Yang. During that time, I drowned my sorrows in alcohol every night, completely losing my drive. I didn't understand. What was so great about Si Yang? He wasn't as rich as me, not as handsome, and he played around. Later, I finally seized the chance to secretly send Yanshu photos of him at a nightclub. Watching Song Yanshu stand forlornly under the dormitory building, holding a cake, my heart ached terribly. Luckily, Si Yang delivered. He cheated, and Song Yanshu broke up with him immediately. That night, I gathered a few roommates and popped open champagne. But when I heard Song Yanshu was heartbroken over this, I couldn't feel happy anymore. Later, I found out she really liked a limited edition collaborative camera. I used every connection I had in my life and finally managed to get that camera. But then I worried again. What if delivering it myself scared her? So I arranged for her to win it in a raffle. After graduating from university, I rushed to my father without delay, asking him to arrange a blind date between me and Song Yanshu. Thankfully, I played it cool and finally got the girl. At our wedding, I saw her best friend using that limited edition collaborative camera to take photos for us. The corners of my mouth nearly curled up to the sky. Originally, I had planned to wait until we grew old to slowly tell Song Yanshu about my secret crush on her. Now there's no need. We will be together forever and ever.